Tiana Brooks sat alone in the harsh fluorescent light of the hospital waiting room at 2:47 a.m., holding a piece of paper that might as well have been a death sentence. The medical bill trembled in her hands, $340,000 for the treatment her 7-year-old daughter Grace needed. The number blurred as tears filled her eyes. Her teacher's salary barely covered rent and groceries. Her savings account had exactly $1,247 in it. She had no family wealth to draw from, no secret inheritance, no fairy godmother waiting in the wings. Through the window of room 412, she could see Grace sleeping, her small brown face peaceful against the white pillow, her head wrapped in a bright red scarf covering where her beautiful curls used to be. The leukemia had taken so much already. Tiana couldn't let it take everything. Grace had been so brave through it all. While other children cried during blood draws, Grace would squeeze Tiana's hand and recite multiplication tables to distract herself. When the chemotherapy made her sick, she'd apologize for being trouble, as if cancer was something she'd chosen. The guilt crushed Tiana's chest every single day. Earlier that evening, while Tiana had stepped out to get terrible coffee from the vending machine, Grace had apparently been awake. When Tiana returned, Grace handed her a sealed envelope with careful 7-year-old handwriting on the front. To the rich man on TV who helps people. "Mommy, I wrote a letter," Grace had whispered, her voice weak but determined. "Mr. Carter at school told us that sometimes when people need help, they have to be brave enough to ask. I saw this man on the news last week. He gave money to build a new library and a park. Maybe he'll help me too." Tiana had wanted to cry right there, but she'd smiled instead. "That's very thoughtful, sweetheart. We'll see. You have to mail it, Mommy? Promise me." "I used my best handwriting." "I promise, baby." Now, hours later, with Grace finally sleeping after a particularly rough evening of nausea and pain, Tiana opened the envelope. Her daughter's careful letters filled the page, some words misspelled, some letters backward, all of it heartbreaking. "Dear rich man, my name is Grace Brooks. I am 7 years old. I have leukemia. That is a sickness in my blood. My mommy is the best mommy in the world. She reads to me every night even when she is tired. She works very hard as a teacher. She helps other kids learn to read just like she helped me. The doctors say I need medicine that costs too much money. My mommy cries when she thinks I'm sleeping. I pretend to sleep so she won't feel bad. She doesn't know I hear her on the phone saying we can't afford it. I don't want to die. I want to grow up and be a teacher like my mommy. I want to help kids learn to read too. I want to go to college and make my mommy proud. I want to have kids someday and tell them about how brave their grandma was. Can you please help us? I don't need toys or a big house. I just need the medicine. My mommy is too proud to ask anybody for help, but I'm not too proud. I'm just scared. If you can't help, I understand. My mommy says we can't always get what we want. But she also says it never hurts to try. Thank you for reading my letter. Love, Grace Brooks." At the bottom, Grace had drawn a picture of 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall and one small, with a sun and a rainbow overhead. The hope in that simple drawing shattered something inside Tiana. She folded the letter carefully and looked at the address Grace had copied from the TV screen. Pierce Technologies, Jonathan Pierce, CEO. Tiana had heard of him. Everyone had. Billionaire tech genius, philanthropist, always in the news for some massive donation or innovative product. He lived in a completely different world, one where $340,000 was probably what he spent on a weekend vacation. This was pointless. Men like that got thousands of letters. Why would he care about one sick child among so many? Why would he even see the letter? It would get filtered by assistants, maybe generate an automated response, then get filed away and forgotten. But she'd promised Grace. Tiana stood on shaky legs and walked to the nurse's station. Beverly Thompson, the night nurse who'd become a friend over the past month, looked up with kind, tired eyes. "Honey, you should get some rest," Beverly said. "Grace is stable. I'll call you if anything changes." "I need an envelope and a stamp," Tiana said quietly. "I have to mail something." Beverly didn't ask questions. She simply opened a drawer and handed over what Tiana needed. As Tiana addressed the envelope with the hospital as the return address, Beverly squeezed her shoulder. "Praying for your baby," Beverly whispered. "Miracles happen. Don't give up hope." Tiana wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe that somewhere in this cold, indifferent world, someone with the power to help would actually care. But hope felt dangerous. Hope was what kept you going until reality finally crushed you. Still, she promised. At 3:15 a.m., Tiana walked out of St. Mercy Hospital into the cool night air. A mailbox stood on the corner, painted blue, ordinary and unremarkable. She held the envelope for a long moment, Grace's careful handwriting visible in the streetlight. "Please," she whispered to nobody, to the universe, to God if he was listening. "Please let someone read this. Please let someone care." She dropped the letter into the mailbox. It landed with a soft thud that sounded like finality. Tiana walked back inside, back to room 412, back to her sleeping daughter. She climbed carefully onto the chair that converted into an uncomfortable bed and watched Grace breathe. In and out. In and out. Each breath a gift, each moment borrowed time. The medical bill sat on the side table, that impossible number glowing in the dim light. 48 hours. That's what Dr. Rodriguez had said. They needed to start the advanced treatment protocol within 48 hours, or Grace's chances would decrease significantly. Tiana closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but all she could see was that letter tumbling through the postal system, one small envelope among millions, carrying the weight of a mother's desperation and a child's hope. Outside, the city hummed with indifferent life. Cars passed. People slept. The world kept turning, unconcerned with the private tragedy unfolding in room 412. But somewhere, that letter was traveling. Somewhere, words written in crayon by a dying child were moving through the darkness, reaching toward a light that might not even exist. Tiana held her daughter's small hand and prayed that she was wrong about the world. She prayed that kindness wasn't extinct, that compassion still existed somewhere, that one person with the power to help might actually choose to do so. She prayed for a miracle. Because without one, she was going to lose the only thing in this world that mattered. If this story moves you, if you've ever hoped for a miracle or believed in the power of kindness, please subscribe to see how Grace's letter changes everything. Will the billionaire even read it? Will help arrive in time? Comment below and tell me, would you have mailed the letter, or is hope sometimes too painful to hold on to? Jonathan Pierce stood in his corner office on the 47th floor of Pierce Technologies, looking out over the city as dawn broke across the skyline. He'd been awake since 4 a.m., which wasn't unusual. Sleep had become difficult after Catherine died 3 years ago. Work filled the void, or at least kept him busy enough to avoid thinking about the void. His assistant, Mrs. Laura Brennan, knocked precisely at 7 a.m. as she did every morning. She was an efficient woman in her 50s who'd been with the company for 12 years and knew him better than most people. "Good morning, Mr. Pierce. Your coffee, and I've sorted the mail. The urgent items are in the red folder, board materials in blue, and..." She hesitated, which was unlike her. "And there's one letter I thought you should see personally." Jonathan took the coffee gratefully. "What kind of letter?" "It's from a child. Normally these go to the foundation office, but something about this one." She placed a wrinkled envelope on his desk. The handwriting was careful but childish, and there was a small stain in one corner that might have been tears. "I think you should read it yourself." After Laura left, Jonathan sat down and opened the envelope. He read Grace's letter once quickly. Then he read it again slowly. By the third reading, his throat felt tight. "My mommy is too proud to ask anybody for help, but I'm not too proud. I'm just scared." Jonathan set the letter down and stared at the stick figure drawing. Two people holding hands. A sun. A rainbow. The simple hope of a child who didn't yet know that the world usually didn't work that way. Except sometimes it did. Sometimes it could. He pressed the intercom button. "Laura, cancel my morning meetings. I need you to get me information on Grace Brooks and her mother Tiana Brooks. The return address is Street Mercy Hospital. I want to know everything. Medical records with proper authorization, financial situation, treatment options, everything. I want it in 2 hours." "Right away, sir." Jonathan looked at the letter again. His own daughter Sophie was 8 years old, just 1 year older than Grace. He thought about what he'd do if Sophie were sick, if he couldn't afford to save her. The answer was simple: anything. Everything. He'd burn the world down if he had to. But what about parents who didn't have resources? What about mothers like Tiana Brooks, who worked hard and played by the rules and still couldn't protect their children from cruel fate? They loved their kids just as much as he loved Sophie. Their children's lives had just as much value. Catherine had always said that wealth was a responsibility, not just a privilege. Before she died, she'd made him promise to use their money to help people, to make a real difference, not just write checks to feel good about himself. "I will," he'd promised her. "I'll make you proud." 2 hours later, Laura returned with a thick folder. Jonathan read through it all. Grace's medical records, the treatment protocol Dr. Helen Rodriguez recommended, the estimated costs, Tiana's financial situation, employment records, everything. Tiana Brooks was exactly what her daughter described. Single mother, elementary school teacher at Madison Elementary for 6 years, spotless record. beloved by students and parents. She made $48,000 a year. Her rent was $1,400 a month. She had student loans. No significant savings. No family money. No safety net. She was drowning and she'd been too proud to ask for help. But her 7-year-old daughter wasn't. Jonathan picked up his phone and called his personal attorney, Mitchell Harris. Mitch, I need you to set up a medical trust fund. Beneficiary is Grace Brooks, age 7. I want full payment for all medical expenses related to her leukemia treatment, no caps, no limits. Whatever she needs, whenever she needs it. I also want a separate educational trust for her future college expenses. Contact St. Mercy Hospital and Dr. Helen Rodriguez. Tell them treatment starts immediately and that all bills come directly to me. Can you have that done today? Of course, Jonathan. May I ask what prompted this? A letter from a brave little girl who reminded me why money matters. After hanging up with Mitch, Jonathan made another call, this one to Dr. Rodriguez directly. He'd donated enough to St. Mercy over the years that the doctor took his call immediately. Dr. Rodriguez, I'm calling about Grace Brooks. I understand she needs immediate treatment, but there's a financial barrier. As of right now, that barrier no longer exists. I'm covering all expenses. What does she need and how quickly can you start? There was a pause. Mr. Pierce, that's incredibly generous. Grace needs to start our advanced protocol within the next day or two. With your authorization, I can begin this afternoon. The treatment is aggressive, but her chances are good if we start now. Then start now. Whatever she needs. Also, I'd like you to consult with any specialist you think could help. Cost is not a factor. The only factor is giving her the best possible chance. I'll assemble the best team immediately. Mr. Pierce, this is going to change this child's life. That's the point, Doctor. Jonathan's final call was to Laura. I need you to contact Tiana Brooks. The number should be in the file. Tell her I received her daughter's letter and that I'd like to speak with her this afternoon if possible. Be gentle. She's going through something no parent should have to face. At 2 p.m. Jonathan's office phone rang. Laura had set up the call. Ms. Brooks, this is Jonathan Pierce. Thank you for taking my call. The voice on the other end was hesitant, disbelieving. Is this real? I don't understand. How did you get our information? Your daughter wrote me a letter. It arrived this morning. I read it and I was moved by her courage and honesty. I've spoken with your attorney and your daughter's doctor. As of this afternoon, all of Grace's medical expenses are covered. Dr. Rodriguez is ready to start treatment immediately. Silence. Then a sound that might have been a sob being held back. I can't. That's too much. I can't accept. Ms. Brooks, your daughter asked for help because she wants to live. She wants to grow up and become a teacher like her mother. She wants to make you proud. Are you going to deny her that chance because of pride? More silence. Then quietly, no. Then accept this help. Let me do this. Your daughter was brave enough to ask. Be brave enough to say yes. Why? The word came out broken. Why would you do this for us? You don't know us. I'm a father too. I have a daughter Sophie's age. If she were sick, I'd do anything to save her. Your love for Grace is no different than my love for Sophie. The only difference is circumstance, and I have the power to change that circumstance. So I'm going to. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Say thank you. Then go hug your daughter and tell her that her letter worked, that help is here, and that she's going to be okay. Yes. The word came out as a whisper. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll never be able to repay you. I don't want repayment. I want Grace to get better. I want her to grow up and become that teacher she dreams about. That's all the thanks I need. After the call ended, Jonathan sat back in his chair. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, purpose. Not the hollow accomplishment of closing a business deal or launching a new product, but real purpose. The satisfaction of using his resources to genuinely help someone who desperately needed it. He thought about Catherine and hoped she was proud. That evening, Jonathan went home to his daughter. Sophie met him at the door with her usual enthusiasm, throwing her arms around his waist. Daddy, you're home early. I am. I have something to tell you. He sat down with her on the couch. Today I got a letter from a little girl named Grace. She's 7 years old and she's very sick. She needs medicine to get better, but her family couldn't afford it. So I'm helping them. Sophie's eyes widened. Is she going to be okay? The doctors think so, now that she can get the treatment she needs. Can I meet her? Can I be her friend? Jonathan smiled. Sophie had Catherine's generous heart. Maybe, sweetheart. Let's let her start treatment first. but I think you two would get along well. I'm glad you helped her, Daddy. Mommy would be glad too. I think so too, baby. I think so too. That night, as Jonathan tucked Sophie into bed, she said, Daddy, what was the little girl's name again? Grace. That's a pretty name. I'm going to say a prayer for her. That's very kind of you. Mommy always said we should help people when we can. You did that today. I did, didn't I? I'm proud of you, Daddy. Jonathan kissed his daughter's forehead, his heart full in a way it hadn't been in years. One letter. One child's desperate plea. And everything had changed. At St. Mercy Hospital, Tiana Brooks sat beside her daughter's bed, holding her hand as Dr. Rodriguez explained the treatment plan that would start the next morning. Grace was awake now, her dark eyes bright with cautious hope. Did the rich man get my letter, Mommy? He did, baby. He read your letter and he's helping us. You're going to get the medicine you need. Really? Grace's smile lit up her whole face. My letter worked? Your letter worked. You were so brave to write it. I told you, Mommy. Sometimes you just have to ask. Tiana laughed and cried at the same time, holding her daughter close, grateful beyond words that somewhere in this world, someone had cared enough to read a child's letter and actually do something about it. Kindness hadn't died after all. Hope wasn't foolish. And sometimes, miracles came in the form of a billionaire who remembered what really mattered. The next morning arrived bright and clear, sunlight streaming through the window of room 412 with a cheerfulness that matched Tiana's mood for the first time in weeks. Grace was awake early, nervous but excited, wearing her favorite green pajamas with little stars on them. Is today the day, Mommy? Grace asked, clutching the stuffed elephant her grandmother had given her. Today is the day, sweet girl. Dr. Rodriguez is coming soon to explain everything. At 8 a.m. sharp, Dr. Helen Rodriguez entered with a warm smile. She was a compact woman with kind eyes and an air of competence that immediately put patients at ease. Behind her came Beverly Thompson, the nurse who'd been with them through every difficult night. Good morning, Grace. Are you ready to start getting better? Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a chair beside the bed, speaking directly to Grace rather than over her head to Tiana. That was one of the things Tiana appreciated most about her. I'm ready. Will it hurt? Some parts might feel uncomfortable, but we're going to do everything we can to make you feel as good as possible. And the medicine is going to help your body fight the bad cells in your blood. Think of it like sending in soldiers to win a battle. Grace nodded seriously. I'm brave. I can handle it. I know you can. You're one of the bravest patients I've ever had. Dr. Rodriguez went through the treatment protocol in terms a 7-year-old could understand, then turned to Tiana with more detailed information. The plan was aggressive but had good success rates for Grace's particular type of leukemia. The next several weeks would be difficult, but there was real hope. As Dr. Rodriguez finished explaining, Beverly began setting up the 4-line. Grace squeezed her mother's hand but didn't cry. You're doing so good, baby, Tiana whispered. I wrote that letter and the rich man helped us. I can do this too. The morning passed in a blur of medical procedures. Grace handled it all with remarkable courage, though Tiana could see the fear beneath her daughter's bravery. They read books together between procedures. They played simple games. They talked about what Grace wanted to do when she was better. I want to go back to school, Grace said. And I want to play at the park. And I want to eat ice cream without feeling sick. You'll do all those things, sweetheart? I promise. At 2 p.m. there was a soft knock on the door. Beverly poked her head in. Grace, you have some visitors. Are you feeling up to seeing them? Grace looked at Tiana, who shrugged. They weren't expecting anyone. Who is it? The door opened wider, and Jonathan Pierce stepped in, his hand on the shoulder of a little girl with light brown hair and curious hazel eyes. He wore dark jeans and a blue button-down shirt, looking less like a billionaire CO and more like a regular dad. The little girl wore a bright red dress and carried a gift bag. Hi, Grace. I'm Jonathan Pierce, the man who got your letter. And this is my daughter, Sophie. We wanted to come meet you and see how you're doing. Tiana stood up quickly, suddenly aware of her rumpled clothes and the fact that she hadn't done more than pull her hair into a ponytail in days. Mr. Pierce. I wasn't expecting. You didn't have to come. Please call me Jonathan. And I wanted to come. I've been thinking about Grace since I read her letter. He smiled at Grace, who was staring at him with wide eyes. You write very good letters. Thank you for helping us, Grace said quietly. You saved my life. You saved your own life by being brave enough to ask for help. That takes real courage. He nudged Sophie forward. Sophie has been excited to meet you. Sophie approached the bed shyly. Hi. My dad told me you're sick, but the doctors are making you better. I brought you some books and games. Being in the hospital is probably boring. Grace's face lit up. I love books. What kind did you bring? Adventure stories. They're my favorites. And there's a puzzle too. The two girls began talking, the initial shyness melting away quickly the way it does with children. Sophie pulled up a chair beside the bed, and they started looking through the books together. Jonathan turned to Tiana with a gentle expression. Can we talk for a minute? Maybe in the hallway? Tiana nodded, her heart pounding. They stepped outside, leaving the door cracked so she could still see Grace. I wanted to check on how everything is going, Jonathan said. Dr. Rodriguez has been keeping me updated, but I wanted to hear it from you. I still can't believe this is happening. Yesterday I was staring at bills I could never pay, and today Grace is getting the treatment she needs. It doesn't feel real. It's real. And I want to make sure you have everything you need. Not just the medical care but support. Is there anything else that would help? Meals? Transportation? Help with bills at home? Tiana's first instinct was to say no, that he'd done enough, but she remembered his words from the phone call. Grace had been brave enough to ask. She needed to be brave enough to accept. The truth is, I've been taking unpaid leave from work to stay here with Grace. My rent is due next week and I'm not sure how I'm going to cover it. But you've already done so much. Give me your landlord's information. I'll take care of it. And any other bills that are worrying you. You shouldn't have to stress about money while your daughter is fighting for her life. Tears filled Tiana's eyes. Why are you doing this? Really? People don't just do things like this. Jonathan was quiet for a moment. My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. We had all the money in the world, the best doctors, every possible advantage. But it wasn't enough. She died anyway. His voice caught slightly. I couldn't save her. But I can help save Grace. Maybe that's selfish in a way. Maybe I need to believe that good things can still happen, that medicine can still work, that families don't always have to lose the people they love. I'm sorry about your wife. Thank you. Catherine would have liked you. She always said that the measure of a person is how they handle hard times. You're handling this with incredible grace. He smiled. No pun intended. Tiana laughed despite herself. Some days I don't feel very graceful. Some days I feel like I'm barely holding it together. That's still holding it together. You're stronger than you think. They stood there in comfortable silence for a moment, watching through the window as their daughters laughed over something in one of the books. Sophie has been asking about Grace every day since I told her about the letter, Jonathan said. She wants to visit regularly if that's okay with you. I think it would be good for both of them. Grace would love that. She doesn't have many friends here and the ones from school, their parents aren't sure if they should visit. People don't know how to handle childhood illness. They're afraid so they stay away. But kids need friends, especially when they're going through something hard. Thank you. For everything. For reading the letter, for helping us, for bringing Sophie. It means more than I can say. You don't have to keep thanking me. This is what people should do for each other. I just have more resources to do it with. Beverly appeared beside them. Sorry to interrupt, but Grace is due for her next round of medication. They went back into the room. Sophie was showing Grace pictures on a tablet, both girls giggling. Sophie, we should let Grace rest, Jonathan said. Do you have to go? Grace asked, looking disappointed. We'll come back soon, Sophie promised. Maybe tomorrow? Really? Jonathan nodded. Really? Sophie doesn't make empty promises. After they left, Grace turned to Tiana with shining eyes. Sophie is nice. And Mr. Pierce is nice too. He doesn't seem like a rich man on TV. He seems like a regular dad. He's both, I think. I'm glad I wrote that letter, Mommy. Me too, baby. Me too. As Beverly administered the medication, Tiana thought about Jonathan's words. About his wife dying, about him needing to believe good things could still happen. She understood that need. After weeks of feeling helpless and hopeless, today had given her something she'd almost forgotten, belief that things could get better. That evening, after Grace fell asleep, Tiana's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Jonathan. I got your number from the hospital forms, hope that's okay. Just wanted to check that Grace is doing okay after the first day of treatment. JP. Tiana smiled and replied. She's sleeping peacefully. Thank you again for visiting. Sophie made her day. Sophie hasn't stopped talking about her new friend. She wants to know if Grace likes art because Sophie wants to bring supplies for them to draw together. Grace loves art. She drew the picture on the letter. I remember. The rainbow and sun. It's on my desk at work. Reminds me what matters. Tiana stared at that message for a long moment. A billionaire CEO had a 7-year-old's crayon drawing on his desk. The world was stranger and more beautiful than she'd thought possible. "You're a good man, Jonathan Pierce," she texted back. "Just trying to be. Sleep well, Tiana. Tomorrow is a new day and Grace is going to get through this. I believe that now. Thank you for helping me believe." As Tiana finally closed her eyes that night, uncomfortable in the chairbed but more peaceful than she'd been in weeks, she thought about how one letter had changed everything. Grace had reached out to a stranger with nothing but hope and honesty, and that stranger had reached back. Kindness wasn't dead. Hope wasn't foolish. And sometimes the right person read the right letter at exactly the right time. Tomorrow, Grace would face another day of treatment. But they wouldn't face it alone anymore. They had help. They had hope. They had a new friend who'd proven that one person really could make a difference. That was more than enough. 3 weeks passed in a rhythm of hospital days, medical procedures, and slowly growing hope. Grace's body responded well to the treatment, though it wasn't easy. There were hard days when the medication made her sick, when her small body rebelled against the poison that was also her cure. But there were good days too, and those became more frequent as time went on. Jonathan and Sophie visited almost every afternoon. At first, Tiana thought they'd stop coming once the novelty wore off, but they kept showing up. Sophie brought art supplies, books, card games, and most importantly, consistent friendship. The two girls became inseparable during visiting hours. On this particular Tuesday afternoon, Tiana sat in the family lounge while the girls played in Grace's room under Beverly's watchful eye. Jonathan had brought coffee, real coffee from a shop down the street, not the terrible hospital vending machine kind. "You didn't have to do that," Tiana said, accepting the cup gratefully. "I know. But I wanted to." Jonathan sat down across from her. He looked tired, she noticed. Not sick, but like a man carrying weight he couldn't put down. "How are you holding up?" "And I want the real answer, not the polite one." Tiana considered lying, then decided against it. Jonathan had earned honesty. "I'm exhausted. Grateful but exhausted. Some days I feel guilty for being tired when Grace is the one actually going through treatment. She's the brave one. I'm just watching." "You're not just watching. You're being her mother, her constant, her safe place. That's not passive. That's everything. Some days it doesn't feel like enough." "I understand that feeling." Jonathan stared into his coffee. "When Catherine was sick, I felt useless. I could buy the best doctors, the best facility, every comfort money could provide. But I couldn't fix her. I couldn't take away her pain. I couldn't stop the cancer. All I could do was sit with her and watch her suffer." "I'm sorry. That must have been terrible." "The worst part was the helplessness. I built a tech company from nothing. I solved problems for a living. But I couldn't solve the only problem that mattered." He looked up and Tiana saw old grief in his eyes. Sophie was 5 when Catherine died. She didn't fully understand what was happening. She kept asking when Mommy was coming home. "How did you handle it?" "Poorly at first. I threw myself into work, tried to outrun the grief. But you can't outrun it. It follows you. Eventually, I realized that Sophie needed me to be present, not perfect. She needed her dad, not a busy executive hiding in his office." "So you changed." "I tried to. I'm still trying. Single parenting is hard even with resources. You're doing it without resources and you're doing a beautiful job." Tiana felt warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you for saying that. Most days I feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water. That's still swimming. That's still surviving. And now, thanks to Grace's letter, you don't have to do it alone." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping coffee and watching hospital staff move past. Tiana found herself relaxing in Jonathan's presence in a way she hadn't expected. He was easy to talk to despite the vast differences in their circumstances. Money hadn't made him arrogant or distant. If anything, grief had made him more human. "Can I ask you something?" Tiana said. "Of course. Why do you keep coming? I mean, you've already done so much. You're paying for Grace's treatment, you handled my rent and bills. You don't need to visit every day. But you do." Jonathan was quiet for a moment. "Honestly? Because it helps me as much as it helps Grace. After Catherine died, I felt lost. I'd built this successful company, made all this money, but none of it mattered. None of it brought her back. I started wondering what the point was." He met her eyes. "Then I got Grace's letter. And I remembered that money is just a tool. What matters is how you use it. Coming here, seeing Grace get better, watching her friendship with Sophie grow, it reminds me that life can still be good. That there's still purpose. You're getting as much from this as we are." Maybe more. Grace gave me a gift when she wrote that letter. She reminded me why I'm here, what I should be doing with my life. That's worth more than any amount of money. Before Tiana could respond, Sophie burst into the lounge, excitement bright on her face. Dad, come quick. Grace is feeling good today and we want to show you the picture we made together. Jonathan stood, smiling. Lead the way. In Grace's room, the two girls had created an elaborate drawing together on a large poster board Beverly had found for them. It showed two stick figures holding hands under a rainbow, surrounded by hearts and stars. Grace's careful printing spelled out "best friends" across the top. This is beautiful, Jonathan said, genuinely moved. You two make a good team. We're going to hang it on the wall, Grace announced. So everyone can see. Beverly produced some tape, and together they hung the drawing where Grace could see it from her bed. Tiana watched her daughter's joy and felt overwhelming gratitude. A month ago, Grace had been writing a desperate letter to a stranger. Now she had a friend, hope, and a future. Can Sophie stay for dinner? Grace asked. The hospital food isn't great, but it's better when you have someone to eat with. Jonathan looked at Tiana for permission. She nodded. If it's okay with you, Jonathan. I know you have work. Work can wait. This is more important. So the four of them had dinner together in Grace's room, eating hospital cafeteria food that tasted better than it should because of the company. The girls chattered about school and books and what they'd do when Grace was released. Jonathan and Tiana traded stories about their daughter's various adventures and mishaps. Grace tried to give her lunch to a homeless man when she was 5, Tiana said, laughing at the memory. Just walked right up to him and held out her sandwich. Nearly gave me a heart attack, but the man was so touched. He thanked her and told her she'd grow up to do great things. Sophie did something similar, Jonathan said. We were at a restaurant and she noticed the busboy looked sad. She drew him a picture and wrote, "I hope you smile today" on it. He cried right there in the middle of the restaurant. They're both empathetic kids, Tiana observed. They learned it somewhere. Sophie learned it from Catherine. Grace learned it from you. After dinner, Jonathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and sighed. I'm sorry, I have to take this. Board member emergency. Give me 5 minutes. He stepped into the hallway, leaving Tiana with the girls. Sophie was showing Grace a photo album on a tablet, pictures of her mother. That's my mommy, Sophie said softly. She died when I was little. But Daddy says she's still with us, just in a different way. Grace studied the pictures carefully. She was pretty. She looks nice. She was the nicest. She read me stories every night and she made the best pancakes, and she always knew how to make me feel better when I was sad. I'm sorry she died. Thank you. But you're not going to die. The medicine is working. My dad makes sure you get the best doctors. Tiana's throat tightened. These two little girls, bonded by hardship, supporting each other with the simple wisdom of children who understood what really mattered. Jonathan returned, looking apologetic. I'm sorry, but I need to get Sophie home. School night. Of course. Thank you for staying for dinner. As they prepared to leave, Sophie hugged Grace carefully. I'll see you tomorrow. Promise. Promise. At the door, Jonathan paused. Tiana, can I ask you something? Sure. Would you and Grace like to come to our house for dinner this weekend? Dr. Rodriguez said Grace can have brief outings if she's feeling up to it. I thought a change of scenery might be nice, and Sophie would love to show Grace her room. Tiana's first instinct was to refuse, to say it was too much, but Grace's hopeful face stopped her. That would be lovely. Thank you. Saturday at 6 p.m.? I'll send a car. We can take the bus. Tiana. His voice was gentle but firm. Let me send a car. Please. She relented. Okay. Thank you. After they left, Grace said, Mommy, Mr. Pierce is really nice. And Sophie is the best friend I've ever had. I know, sweetheart. Do you think Mr. Pierce likes you? The question caught Tiana off guard. What do you mean? He smiles at you different than he smiles at other people. And he brings you coffee. And he looks at you the way princes look at princesses in my books. Tiana laughed, flustered. That's just your imagination, baby. Mr. Pierce is being kind because he's a good person. Maybe. But I think he likes you. That night, after Grace fell asleep, Tiana thought about her daughter's words. She'd been so focused on Grace's health that she hadn't let herself think about Jonathan as anything other than their generous benefactor. But Grace was right. There was something in the way he looked at her, something in their conversations that felt like more than polite concern. She pushed the thought away. Jonathan Pierce was a billionaire. She was a single mother barely making ends meet, even with his help. They lived in different worlds. Besides, his generosity stemmed from grief and loss, from needing to believe he could save someone after failing to save his wife. She couldn't let herself imagine it was anything more than that. But late that night her phone buzzed with a text. Sophie says Grace is the best thing that's happened to her since losing her mother. Thank you for letting us be part of your lives. You're both special. JP. Tiana read the message 3 times before responding. You've given us hope when we had none. We're the grateful ones. Maybe we saved each other. Tiana stared at those 4 words for a long time, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was bigger than just one man helping one sick child. Maybe this was about 2 broken families finding wholeness in each other's company. Maybe Grace's letter had started something that couldn't be put back in an envelope and mailed away. Maybe that was okay. Saturday evening arrived with autumn sunshine and the kind of weather that makes everything feel possible. Dr. Rodriguez had examined Grace that morning and declared her strong enough for the dinner outing, though she'd given Tiana strict instructions about hand washing, avoiding crowds, and keeping the visit relatively short. A sleek black car arrived at the hospital at 5:30 p.m. The driver, a friendly man named Robert, helped Grace into the back seat with careful gentleness. Grace wore a bright blue dress that Tiana had bought specially for the occasion, and a soft yellow hat covered her head where hair was slowly beginning to grow back in tiny, fuzzy patches. I'm so excited, Mommy, Grace said, bouncing slightly in her seat. I get to see Sophie's house and meet her dog. Sophie has a dog? She told me yesterday. A golden retriever named Buddy. He's big and fluffy and likes to give kisses. The drive took them out of the city and into an area where houses got progressively larger and further apart. When Robert finally pulled through a gate and up a long driveway, Tiana's breath caught. The house was beautiful but not ostentatious, a modern 2-story design with lots of windows and warm wood accents. It looked like a home, not a mansion. Sophie burst out the front door before they'd even parked, with Jonathan following at a more measured pace. A large golden retriever bounded after them, tail wagging. Grace, you came. Sophie practically vibrated with excitement. Jonathan helped Grace out of the car, and immediately Buddy approached, sniffing curiously but gently. Grace giggled as the dog licked her hand. Buddy, be gentle, Jonathan instructed, but the dog seemed to understand instinctively that this small human needed care. He sat down and let Grace pet him without jumping or getting too enthusiastic. He's so soft, Grace said, delighted. He loves kids. Come on, I'll show you my room. Sophie grabbed Grace's hand carefully. Girls, give Grace a minute to rest first, Jonathan said. She just had a car ride. I'm okay, Grace assured him. I want to see everything. Jonathan looked at Tiana, who nodded. She's been looking forward to this all week. Let her enjoy it. The girls disappeared inside with Buddy following, leaving Tiana and Jonathan in the driveway. He wore casual jeans and a green sweater, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him at the hospital. Welcome to our home, he said. I promise it's less intimidating on the inside. Catherine designed it to feel warm, not showy. It's beautiful. Come on, I'll give you the tour before the girls claim all your attention. The inside matched the outside, comfortable and welcoming with family photos on the walls and Sophie's artwork displayed prominently. It was clearly a home where a child lived, with books and games and small signs of everyday life. Tiana had half expected cold perfection, but this felt lived in and loved. Jonathan led her to the kitchen, where something smelled delicious. I should confess something. I don't actually cook very well, so I hired a chef for tonight. I hope that's okay. Tiana laughed. Given that my cooking lately has consisted of hospital vending machine snacks, anything sounds amazing. A woman in her 50s appeared from what looked like a butler's pantry. You must be Tiana. I'm Margaret, the family chef. Jonathan told me about your daughter's dietary restrictions, so I've prepared something that should be gentle on her system but still delicious. That's very thoughtful. Thank you. My pleasure, dear. Dinner will be ready in about 30 minutes. The girls are having a wonderful time upstairs. I can hear them laughing. Jonathan smiled. That's the best sound in the world, isn't it? Kids laughing. He led Tiana to a comfortable living room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a large backyard. They sat on a couch that was clearly designed for actual sitting, not just looking pretty. Can I get you something to drink? Wine, water, juice. Water is fine. I'm trying to be responsible since I'm technically still on Grace watch. Jonathan got them both water and sat down, leaving a respectful distance between them. She looks good, Tiana. Dr. Rodriguez told me her latest numbers are very encouraging. I know. Every day I wake up expecting bad news and every day the news is good. I don't know when I'll stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe when she's been in remission for a year. Maybe never. I still wake up some mornings forgetting Catherine is gone, then remembering all over again. He took a sip of water. Trauma changes how we experience hope. We want to believe things will be okay, but we're afraid to fully trust it. That's exactly it. Grace is getting better and I'm so grateful, but I'm also terrified. What if it comes back? What if we're not lucky next time? Then we'll handle it. Together. But right now in this moment she's doing well. Maybe that's enough. Is that what you tell yourself? To stay in the moment? I try. Some days I'm better at it than others. Having Sophie helps. Kids don't worry about tomorrow. They live right now. Grace is like that too. She doesn't seem weighed down by fear. She's always been like that. Even as a baby she was happy and present. I used to joke that she got all the good qualities I wish I had. You have plenty of good qualities, Tiana. Don't sell yourself short. Before she could respond, the girls came thundering down the stairs, Buddy barking happily behind them. Mommy, Sophie has the most amazing dollhouse, Grace announced. It has 3 floors and real lights. And Grace loves my book collection, Sophie added. We're going to read some together after dinner. Margaret appeared in the doorway. Dinner is ready when you are. The dining room table was set beautifully but not formally, with fresh flowers in the center and Sophie's handmade placemats at each setting. The meal was simple but delicious. Roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, steamed vegetables and fresh bread. Margaret had prepared a smaller, milder portion for Grace. Conversation flowed easily. The girls chattered about school and books and dogs. Jonathan told funny stories about Sophie learning to ride a bike. Tiana shared memories of Grace's early attempts at cooking, which had resulted in more mess than food. She tried to make me breakfast in bed for Mother's Day when she was 4, Tiana said, laughing. She ended up with egg on the ceiling. I have no idea how she managed that. Physics-defying cooking, Jonathan said. That's a special talent. After dinner they moved to the living room. Margaret brought out dessert, a light lemon cake that made Grace's eyes light up. This is the best dinner ever, Grace declared. Can we come back? Grace, Tiana said gently, but Jonathan interrupted. You're welcome anytime. Both of you. I mean that. The evening wound down slowly, comfortably. The girls looked at books together while Tiana and Jonathan talked about everything and nothing. Their childhoods, their dreams before life got complicated, their hopes for their daughters' futures. I want Grace to know she can be anything, Tiana said. That cancer doesn't define her, that being sick doesn't make her weak. I want her to grow up confident and kind. She will. She already is. She got that from you. What do you want for Sophie? Jonathan looked at his daughter, who was giggling with Grace over a particularly funny illustration. I want her to remember that her mother loved her. I want her to know that loss doesn't mean you stop living. And I want her to have real friendships like what she's building with Grace. Sophie has been lonely since Catherine died. Her friends at school don't know how to talk to her about it. But Grace understands loss in a way most kids don't. They connect on a deeper level. Grace has been lonely too. Being sick isolates you. People don't know what to say, so they say nothing. Finding Sophie has been a blessing. They found each other. Thanks to a brave letter. At 8:30 p.m. Dr. Rodriguez's curfew loomed. Jonathan called Robert to bring the car around. The girls hugged goodbye, promising to see each other at the hospital the next day. Thank you for tonight, Tiana said at the door. It was exactly what Grace needed. What about what you needed? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean? You've been living at the hospital for weeks, caring for Grace, barely taking care of yourself. Did tonight give you what you needed too? Tiana thought about the easy conversation, the laughter, the feeling of being seen as a person and not just a worried mother. Yes, it did. Thank you, Jonathan. You're welcome. And Tiana? He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I enjoy your company. Not just because of the girls. Because of you. I hope that's okay to say. Her heart did a complicated flip. It's okay to say. I enjoy your company too. Good. Then maybe we can do this again soon. I'd like that. On the drive home, Grace fell asleep against Tiana's shoulder, exhausted but happy. Tiana stroked her daughter's fuzzy head and thought about Jonathan's words. He enjoyed her company. Not just as Grace's mother but as herself, Tiana. When had she last been seen that way? When had she last been just a woman, not just a mother, not just a struggling single parent? Her phone buzzed quietly. A text from Jonathan. Sophie says tonight was the best night in a long time. Thank you for bringing joy back to our house. Tiana smiled and typed back. Grace said the same thing. Thank you for reminding us that life can still be good. It can be better than good. Maybe we're figuring that out together. Tiana read that message 3 times, her heart full of something that felt dangerously like hope. Not just hope for Grace's health, but hope for something more. Something unexpected and beautiful growing between 2 people who'd both been broken by life. Maybe Grace's letter had started a chain reaction bigger than any of them had anticipated. Maybe helping each other was turning into something deeper. Maybe that was the real miracle. Have you ever wondered if hope can lead to something even more beautiful than healing? If you're invested in Grace's recovery and curious about where this connection between Tiana and Jonathan is heading, please subscribe. Comment below and tell me, do you believe second chances at happiness are possible even in the hardest circumstances? The next week started well. Grace's numbers continued to improve, and Dr. Rodriguez expressed cautious optimism. Sophie visited every day after school, and Jonathan came most evenings after work. The routine had become comfortable, almost normal. Then Wednesday arrived. Tiana woke at 3 a.m. to Grace crying, her small body racked with chills despite the warm blanket. Beverly rushed in immediately, her practiced eyes taking in the situation. She's running a fever. I'm calling Dr. Rodriguez. The next hours blurred together. Grace's temperature spiked to 103 degrees. Her body, weakened by weeks of treatment, couldn't fight off what turned out to be a simple infection that a healthy child would shake off easily. But Grace wasn't healthy. Her immune system was compromised, and what should have been minor became serious quickly. Dr. Rodriguez arrived within 30 minutes, even though it was the middle of the night. She examined Grace thoroughly while Tiana stood by, feeling helpless. We need to adjust her treatment protocol, Dr. Rodriguez said after pulling Tiana aside. Her body is having a harder time than we anticipated. We'll need to scale back the aggressive approach temporarily, let her immune system recover, then try a modified version. But that means? Tiana couldn't finish the sentence. It means treatment will take longer. But it's necessary. If we push too hard, we could do more harm than good. Grace is strong, Tiana. She can handle this adjustment. Tiana nodded, but terror clawed at her chest. Longer treatment meant more time for things to go wrong. It meant more weeks of watching her daughter suffer. It meant the finish line she'd been focusing on was further away than she'd thought. By morning, Grace's fever had broken, but she was weak and miserable. She barely touched her breakfast. When Sophie texted asking if she could visit after school, Tiana gently told her maybe tomorrow would be better. But Jonathan showed up at noon anyway, even though it was a work day. He carried a bag from a nearby deli. I thought you might not have eaten, he said, offering Tiana a sandwich. And I heard about last night. How is she? Sleeping now. The fever broke, but she's exhausted. Dr. Rodriguez says we need to modify the treatment plan. Jonathan's expression tightened. What does that mean? Longer. Harder. Scarier. Tiana's voice cracked. I thought we were making progress. I let myself believe she was getting better. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe. Hey. Jonathan set down the bag and gently took her shoulders. Don't go there. Don't imagine the worst. This is a setback, not the end. Dr. Rodriguez knows what she's doing. But what if it's not enough? What if we go through all this and lose her anyway? We're not going to lose her. You can't promise that. Money can't promise that. You couldn't save your wife, and I might not be able to save my daughter, and I'm so tired of being brave when I just want to fall apart. The words tumbled out, raw and honest, and suddenly Tiana was crying, really crying, all the fear and exhaustion she'd been holding back for weeks pouring out. Jonathan didn't tell her to stop. He didn't offer empty platitudes. He just pulled her into his arms and let her cry against his chest while she fell apart. They stood like that for several minutes in the hallway, hospital staff moving past but giving them privacy. Jonathan held her firmly, steadily, like an anchor in a storm. I'm sorry, Tiana finally said, pulling back and wiping her eyes. That was unprofessional. You're not my therapist. I'm your friend. Friends let friends fall apart sometimes. He handed her a napkin from the deli bag. And for what it's worth, you're right. I couldn't save Catherine. It's the worst thing that ever happened to me. But I learned something from losing her. What? That you can't control outcomes, only effort. I gave Catherine everything I had. Every resource, every moment, every ounce of love. In the end, it wasn't enough to save her life, but it was enough to make her last months better. She died knowing she was loved completely. That matters. I'm not sure how that helps right now. It helps because Grace knows she's loved completely too. Win or lose, she'll never doubt that. You've given her everything. That has value even if the outcome isn't what we hope for. Tiana wanted to argue but she couldn't. He was right. Whatever happened, Grace would never question her mother's love. Will you stay? She asked quietly. Just for a little while? I don't want to be alone right now. As long as you need. They ate sandwiches in the family lounge, not talking much, just being present with each other. Jonathan told her about Sophie's latest school project and made her laugh with a story about Buddy eating one of his expensive dress shoes. Tiana told him about Grace's favorite books and the games they played on good days. Around 2 p.m., Grace woke up. She looked small and tired in the hospital bed, but when she saw Jonathan, she managed a weak smile. Hi, Mr. Pierce. I'm sorry I look gross. You could never look gross. How are you feeling? Bad. But not as bad as last night. Mommy said I scared her. You scared all of us. But Dr. Rodriguez says you're going to be fine. Your body just needs some time to adjust. Is Sophie mad I couldn't see her today? Sophie understands. She made you a card. Want to see? Jonathan pulled out his phone and showed Grace a photo of an elaborate drawing Sophie had made, full of hearts and stars and the words, "Get better soon, best friend." Grace's eyes filled with tears. She's the best friend ever. She thinks the same about you. They spent the afternoon together, the three of them. Jonathan read aloud from one of Grace's favorite books. Tiana dozed in the chair, exhausted from the sleepless night. Grace drifted in and out of sleep, but seemed comforted by their presence. Around 6 p.m., Beverly came in with medication. As she administered it, she said quietly to Tiana, "You've got a good man there. Not many would stick around through the hard parts. He's just being kind. Honey, I've been a nurse for 30 years. I know the difference between duty and devotion. That man cares about both of you." After Beverly left, Tiana studied Jonathan, who was showing Grace funny videos on his phone to distract her from the four. Beverly was right. This wasn't just charity. This was genuine care, real affection, actual connection. When had that happened? When had the generous stranger become someone essential? That evening, after Jonathan left to pick up Sophie from a friend's house, Tiana sat beside Grace's bed in the quiet room. Her daughter's breathing was steady, her color better than it had been that morning. The crisis had passed. But Tiana felt shaken, reminded of how fragile this all was. Her phone buzzed. "Jonathan. How's she doing?" "Better. Sleeping peacefully. Thank you for today. I needed someone. Anytime. Literally. 3 a.m., noon, midnight. Doesn't matter. You call, I'll be there." "Why?" She typed the question before she could stop herself. "Why do you care so much?" "Really?" The response took a minute to come. "Because I know what it's like to sit in a hospital room watching someone you love suffer. I know how lonely and terrifying it is. I know how much it means to have someone sit with you and remind you that you're not alone. I couldn't do that for Catherine because she needed me to be strong. But I can do it for you. And honestly, you make me want to be here. Not just for Grace. For you too." Tiana stared at that message, her heart pounding. This was more than friendship. They'd crossed some invisible line when he held her while she cried, maybe even before that. They were connected now in a way that went beyond gratitude or circumstance. "I care about you too," she typed back. "More than I should probably admit." "Why shouldn't you admit it?" "Because you're Jonathan Pierce, billionaire CEO. And I'm Tiana Brooks, single mom teacher who was one medical bill away from losing everything. We're from different worlds. We're from the same world. The world where people love their kids and do their best and sometimes need help. Money is just numbers. What matters is this: you make me laugh. You challenge me. You see me as a person, not a bank account. Sophie adores you. And when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to hope for something beyond just getting through the day." Tiana read those words 3 times, tears streaming down her face again, but this time they weren't from fear or exhaustion. They were from the overwhelming feeling of being seen, valued, wanted. "I don't know what to say," she typed. "Say you'll have dinner with me when Grace is stable enough that you can leave for an evening. Just us. Not the girls, not the hospital, just 2 people who might be building something worth exploring." "Like a date?" "Exactly like a date." Tiana looked at her sleeping daughter, thought about everything they'd been through, everything they still faced. Life was fragile and uncertain. But maybe that's exactly why you had to grab happiness when it showed up. Maybe waiting for the perfect time meant missing the real time. "Yes," she typed. "I'd like that very much." "Good. Then it's a date. Once Grace is stronger. No rush. I'll wait. Thank you for today. For being here. For everything. Thank you for letting me in. Sleep well, Tiana. That night, despite the scare and the setback, Tiana slept better than she had in weeks. Because she wasn't alone anymore. Because someone had shown up in the hardest moment and stayed. Because hope came in unexpected forms, and sometimes it looked like a man who'd lost his wife but was brave enough to love again. Grace would get better. The treatment would work. They'd get through this. And maybe, just maybe, on the other side of this fight, there would be something beautiful waiting. Not just survival but real happiness. That was worth fighting for too. 2 weeks after the fever scare, Grace turned a corner. Her body adjusted to the modified treatment protocol, and the side effects became more manageable. Dr. Rodriguez called it finding the sweet spot, the right balance of aggressive treatment without overwhelming Grace's system. On a bright Tuesday morning, Dr. Rodriguez entered Grace's room with a smile that reached her eyes. "Grace, your latest test results are exactly what we hoped to see. The treatment is working. Your numbers are in the healthy range, and if they stay there for another 2 weeks, we can talk about transitioning you to outpatient care." Tiana felt her knees go weak. Outpatient? She could come home. Not full-time at first. We'd want her here for treatments, but she could sleep at home, go to limited activities, start rebuilding her normal life. With precautions, of course. Grace sat up straighter in bed, excitement lighting her face. I could sleep in my own bed? See my room? Go to the park? Eventually, yes. Let's get through these next 2 weeks first. But Grace, you've done such a good job fighting. I'm very proud of you. After Dr. Rodriguez left, Tiana and Grace held hands and cried happy tears. Beverly, who'd overheard from the hallway, came in with a box of tissues and her own misty eyes. I told you, honey. Miracles happen. This girl is strong. Word spread quickly through their small circle. Tiana texted Jonathan, who immediately called back, his voice thick with emotion. That's incredible news. I'm so happy for you both. This calls for a celebration. Jonathan, you've already done so much. You don't need to. I want to. Let me do this. Please. That afternoon, Jonathan arrived with Sophie, balloons, and a plan. Mr. Dennis Carter, Grace's principal from Madison Elementary, had coordinated something special at Jonathan's suggestion. At 3 p.m., hospital staff helped move Grace to a wheelchair and brought her to a window facing the parking lot. Below, the entire third-grade class from Madison Elementary stood holding handmade signs. "We miss you, Grace. Get well soon. You're our hero, and come back soon." Mr. Carter had organized a brief outdoor gathering, keeping distance but showing love. The school choir, standing safely spaced, sang 3 of Grace's favorite songs. Her teacher, Miss Patricia Wilson, held up a video tablet showing all the cards and letters Grace's classmates had made for her. Parents waved. Kids jumped and cheered when they saw Grace appear in the window. Grace cried happy tears, waving back at her friends. "They didn't forget me, Mommy. They still remember me." "Of course they remember you, baby. You're unforgettable." Jonathan stood beside Tiana, his hand finding hers naturally. She didn't pull away. They watched their daughters together, Sophie standing beside Grace's wheelchair, both girls waving at the crowd below. "You arranged this," Tiana said quietly. "Mr. Carter arranged it. I just made a few calls." Grace needed to know her community is rooting for her. "You're too good to us. I'm just right enough. There's a difference." After the surprise celebration, they returned to Grace's room to find it transformed. Balloons floated near the ceiling, tied to colorful ribbons. A banner across the window read, "Victory is near." And on the table sat a beautiful cake decorated with rainbows and stars. "Sophie and I made it," Jonathan explained. "Well, Sophie designed it and our chef executed it. But the sentiment is ours." They had a party right there in room 412. Beverly joined them, along with several nurses who'd grown fond of Grace. Margaret, Jonathan's chef, appeared with real plates and napkins, refusing to let them eat celebratory cake off hospital trays. Even Dr. Rodriguez stopped by for a slice. "This is what medicine should be about," Dr. Rodriguez said, watching Grace and Sophie giggle over blue frosting on their lips. "Not just treating disease but celebrating life. This is why I became a doctor." As the party wound down, Grace grew tired but remained happy. Sophie sat beside her on the bed, and they looked at photos from the day on Jonathan's phone. "When you come home, can I visit?" Sophie asked. "You better visit. We have to finish our friendship bracelet business plan. And read all those books we've been collecting. And teach Buddy new tricks. And have sleepovers." Do you think our parents will let us have sleepovers? Both girls turned to look at Tiana and Jonathan with hopeful, manipulative eyes that only children can master. We'll discuss it, Tiana said, trying not to laugh. That's not a no, Grace pointed out. You're too smart for your own good, Jonathan said. Later, after Sophie left with promises to return the next day, Tiana walked Jonathan to the elevator. They stood in the hallway, suddenly shy, aware that something between them was shifting but not quite sure how to name it. Thank you for today, Tiana said. The celebration, the cake, everything. You made Grace feel loved and remembered. She is loved and remembered. I just made sure she knew it. Still, you keep showing up. You keep caring. You keep being exactly what we need. Jonathan stepped closer, his voice soft. What if I told you I need this too? That being part of your lives has given me purpose again? That you and Grace have reminded me that life can be beautiful even after loss? I'd say I feel the same way. About you and Sophie. You've given us more than money. You've given us hope and friendship and... She paused, struggling to name the feeling in her chest. And, he prompted gently. And something that feels like it could become love, if we let it. Jonathan's eyes widened slightly. You feel it too? How could I not? You've been everything, Jonathan. Strong when I was weak, present when I was alone, hopeful when I was scared. You've treated Grace like she matters, not like she's a charity case. And you've treated me like I'm worth knowing, not just worth helping. You are worth knowing. You're remarkable, Tiana. Strong and brave and kind. Being with you feels right in a way nothing has felt right since Catherine died. I feel guilty sometimes, Tiana admitted. Like I shouldn't be happy when Grace is still sick. Like I shouldn't be thinking about you when I should only be thinking about her. Grace is going to recover. And when she does, she'll want to see you happy. Kids want their parents to be happy. It gives them security, shows them life can be good. When did you get so wise? When I started paying attention to what matters. He reached up and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture intimate and tender. Tiana, I know the timing is complicated. I know we're in the middle of a crisis. But I also know that life is short and uncertain, and when something feels right, you don't waste it waiting for perfect circumstances. What are you saying? I'm saying that I want to take you on that date we talked about. I'm saying that I have feelings for you that go beyond friendship and gratitude. I'm saying that I think we could be something real, something lasting, if you're willing to explore it. Tiana's heart raced. This was too soon, too fast, too complicated. But it also felt inevitable, like they'd been moving toward this moment since Grace's letter landed on Jonathan's desk. I'm willing, she said quietly. I'm scared, but I'm willing. Good. Me too. Scared and willing. He smiled and it transformed his whole face. We'll figure it out together. No rush, no pressure. We'll let it grow naturally. Okay. Okay. They stood there smiling at each other until Beverly appeared around the corner and stopped short. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. You're not interrupting, Tiana said quickly, stepping back. Beverly grinned knowingly. Ah, sure. I'll just be going then. She disappeared back around the corner and they heard her whisper to another nurse, I told you something was happening there. Tiana covered her face with her hands, half embarrassed, half amused. The whole hospital staff is going to know by morning. Let them know. I'm not ashamed of caring about you. Me neither. About you, I mean. She lowered her hands. Thank you for today. For everything. You've given us so much. You've given me just as much. Sleep well, Tiana. Tomorrow is another good day. After he left, Tiana returned to Grace's room to find her daughter still awake, a knowing smile on her face. I told you Mr. Pierce likes you. Were you eavesdropping? The door was open. I couldn't help it. Are you going to date him? Maybe. Would that be okay with you? Grace nodded seriously. He's nice, Mommy. He makes you smile. And Sophie would be the best sister ever. Whoa, let's not plan the wedding yet. We're just getting to know each other. But you like him. I do. And he likes you. He does. Then you should be happy together. Life is too short to not be happy. That's what Grandma always says. Out of the mouths of babes. Grace was right. Life was short. Tomorrow wasn't promised. If happiness showed up, you grabbed it with both hands. You're very wise for 7 years old. Almost 8. My birthday is in 3 weeks. I know, sweetheart. We'll have the best birthday party ever. I promise. Can Sophie come? Sophie will definitely be there. And Mr. Pierce? And Jonathan too. Grace grinned. Jonathan. You called him Jonathan, not Mr. Pierce. Go to sleep, you little troublemaker. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby. So much. That night, as Grace slept peacefully and Tiana dozed in her chair, she thought about small victories. Grace's improving numbers. The school celebration. The cake and balloons and community support. And yes, the connection growing between her and Jonathan. Every victory mattered. Every moment of joy counted. Every step forward was worth celebrating. They were winning. Slowly, gradually, one day at a time they were winning. And that was enough. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of continued improvement. Grace's numbers remained stable and strong. Dr. Rodriguez officially cleared her for outpatient care starting the following Monday. Tiana could barely believe it. Her daughter was coming home. On Friday evening, Jonathan appeared at the hospital with a nervous energy Tiana hadn't seen before. Grace is with Sophie at my house, he said. Margaret is watching them and they're having a movie night. Your mother agreed to stay at your apartment to water plants and handle any deliveries. So you and I are having that date. Tonight. If you're willing. Tiana looked down at her worn jeans and tired appearance. I look terrible. I haven't dressed for a date in, I don't even know how long. Jonathan held up a garment bag. Laura, my assistant, helped me. She said she took a guess on your size based on photos. If it doesn't fit or you hate it, we'll figure something else out. But I'd really like to take you to dinner. Away from this hospital just for a few hours. Let yourself be Tiana, not just Grace's mom. Tiana took the bag with shaking hands. Inside was a beautiful maroon dress, simple but elegant, with a matching wrap. There were shoes too, practical heels that wouldn't kill her feet. This is too much. It's a dress. And after tonight, it's yours to keep or donate as you see fit. But right now it's a tool to help you feel like yourself. Will you come to dinner with me? She looked at his hopeful face and realized she wanted this. She wanted to be Tiana again, not just a worried mother. She wanted to sit across from this man and talk about something other than medical reports. She wanted to remember what it felt like to be a woman. Give me 20 minutes. The hospital had a family changing room with a proper mirror and decent lighting. Tiana showered quickly, washed her hair for the first time in days and carefully put on the dress. Laura had guessed perfectly. It fit beautifully, making Tiana feel feminine and confident. She did simple makeup, nothing fancy, just enough to feel human. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked alive. Not just surviving but living. When she emerged, Jonathan's expression was worth every moment of self-doubt. He stared at her openly, admiration clear in his eyes. You're beautiful. I'm presentable. There's a difference. No, Tiana. You're beautiful. I've thought so since the first time I saw you, exhausted in the hospital hallway. But tonight, wow. They took his car, driven by Robert, to a small Italian restaurant across town. It was upscale but not stuffy, with warm lighting and quiet corners. The hostess led them to a private table near a window overlooking the city lights. I rented out this section, Jonathan admitted. I wanted us to have privacy. I hope that's not too presumptuous. It's perfect. Thank you. They ordered wine and food, making small talk at first, both of them nervous despite the weeks of growing closeness. But gradually, as the wine relaxed them and the food provided distraction, real conversation emerged. Tell me about yourself, Jonathan said. Not Grace's mom. Not the woman fighting to save her daughter. Just Tiana. Who is she? Tiana thought about it. I don't know if I remember. I've been Grace's mom for so long. Before that, I was a struggling teacher trying to make rent. Before that, I was a college student working 3 jobs. I'm not sure I've ever just been Tiana. What did you want to be when you were young? Before life got complicated. A writer. I used to write stories, silly romantic things about people finding happiness against impossible odds. I filled notebooks with them. I thought I'd write books someday, live in a little apartment surrounded by cats and manuscripts. What happened? Reality. I got pregnant during my senior year of college. Grace's father left before she was born. Suddenly, writing seemed like a luxury I couldn't afford. Teaching paid the bills. It was practical. Safe. I put away the notebooks and focused on survival. Do you miss it? Writing? Every day. But missing something and having time for it are different things. Jonathan was quiet for a moment. What if you had time? What if survival wasn't the only goal? Then maybe I'd write again. Maybe I'd remember what it feels like to create something just because it brings joy, not because it pays bills. You should. When Grace is better, when life settles down, you should write. I'd love to read your stories. They're probably terrible. Naive romantic dreams. or their beautiful expressions of hope. The world needs more of that. Tiana felt tears prick her eyes. When had anyone last asked what she wanted? When had anyone cared about her dreams instead of just her utility? Your turn, she said, changing the subject before she got too emotional. Who is Jonathan Pierce when he's not a billionaire CEO? Jonathan smiled wryly. A widower trying to figure out how to be both mother and father to an 8-year-old. A man who spends too much time working because going home to an empty bed is hard. Someone who loves his daughter desperately but worries constantly that he's not enough. You're more than enough. Sophie is happy and healthy and kind. That's because of you. She's happy and kind because of Catherine. I'm just trying not to mess up what my wife built. Jonathan. Tiana reached across the table and took his hand. Catherine built a foundation, but you've been raising Sophie for 3 years. The person she is now is because of your choices, your presence, your love. Give yourself credit. His hand tightened on hers. It's easier to doubt yourself than to believe you're doing okay. Tell me about it. I question everything I do with Grace. You're an amazing mother. You're an amazing father. They smiled at each other, the weight of shared understanding settling between them. They were both doing their best in impossible situations. They both questioned themselves constantly. And they both needed someone to tell them it was okay, that they were enough. Over dessert, Jonathan's expression turned more serious. Tiana, I need to say something and I'm worried it's too soon or too much, but I can't keep it inside anymore. Okay. I'm listening. I have feelings for you. Real, deep feelings that go way beyond gratitude or circumstance. When I'm with you, I feel alive in a way I haven't since Catherine died. You make me laugh. You challenge me. You see me as a person, not a wallet or a title. Sophie adores you. And Grace. Grace reminds me why life matters. Tiana's heart pounded. Jonathan. I know it's complicated. I know we met under unusual circumstances. I know there's a power dynamic because I paid for Grace's treatment. But I need you to know that my feelings are genuine. I'm not helping you because I expect anything in return. I help because it was the right thing to do. My feelings for you developed separately, organically, because of who you are. I believe you. I feel it too. You do. Of course I do. How could I not? You've been everything, Jonathan. You saved my daughter's life. You showed up when no one else did. You sat with me in my darkest moments and reminded me to hope. And somewhere in all of that, I fell for you. For your kindness, your humor, your strength, your vulnerability. Relief flooded his face. I was so afraid you'd think it was inappropriate, that I was taking advantage of the situation. You haven't taken advantage of anything. You've given us everything and asked for nothing. If anything, I've been afraid you'd realize I have nothing to offer you. I'm broke, I'm exhausted, I come with baggage and complications. Why would someone like you want someone like me? Because you're real. Because you care about what matters. Because when I look at you, I don't see limitations or baggage. I see a strong woman who fights for what she loves. I see someone who makes me want to be better. He paused, then said carefully, Tiana, I want to be with you. Not someday, not eventually, but now. I want to date you properly, court you, let this grow into whatever it's meant to become. Is that something you want too? Tiana thought about all the reasons to say no. The complications, the differences in their circumstances, the risk of heartbreak. But then she thought about how she felt when she was with him. Safe, hopeful, happy. Yes, she said firmly. I want that too. I want to see where this goes. With my eyes open, with hope in my heart, I want to try. Jonathan's smile lit up his whole face. He raised her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. Thank you. For taking a chance on me. Thank you for seeing me. For caring. For being exactly what I needed. We found each other at the right time. That's not coincidence. That's fate. I don't usually believe in fate. Neither did I. Until I got a letter from a 7-year-old who changed everything. They finished dinner slowly, talking about everything and nothing, holding hands across the table, planning outings for when Grace was stronger. They talked about introducing their daughters to the idea of their parents dating, about taking things at a comfortable pace, about being honest with each other. On the drive back to the hospital, Jonathan held Tiana's hand in the back seat. The city lights blurred past the window, but all Tiana could focus on was the feeling of his hand in hers, steady and sure. I should probably tell you something, she said quietly. What's that? I was so angry when Grace got sick. Angry at God, angry at the universe, angry at life for being unfair. I couldn't understand why this was happening to us. What had we done to deserve it? That's natural. But now I think maybe it wasn't punishment. Maybe it was a path. A terrible, hard path that led us somewhere we needed to be. Grace's letter brought us together. Her illness connected our families. And yes, it's been awful and terrifying. But it's also brought something beautiful. Sophie. Hope. Jonathan brought her hand to his lips again. I've been thinking the same thing. If Grace hadn't gotten sick, I never would have read her letter. We never would have met. Our families wouldn't have connected. And I'd still be going through the motions of living without really feeling alive. So maybe suffering has purpose sometimes. Maybe it does. Or maybe we create purpose out of suffering by choosing how we respond to it. At the hospital entrance, Robert parked and gave them privacy. Jonathan turned to Tiana, his expression tender. Thank you for tonight. For saying yes, for being honest, for letting me in. Thank you for asking. For seeing me. For reminding me that I'm allowed to be happy even in hard times. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. When his lips met hers, it was gentle and sweet and full of promise. Not a kiss born of desperation or convenience, but one rooted in genuine affection and respect. When they pulled apart, Tiana was smiling. That was nice, she said. Just nice. Okay, it was really nice. Better. They laughed together, the sound bright in the quiet car. Then they went inside to collect Grace, who was waiting with Sophie in the lobby, both girls pretending they hadn't been speculating wildly about their parents' date. Did you have fun? Grace asked innocently. We did, Tiana said. Did you kiss? Sophie asked bluntly. Sophie, Jonathan said, but he was smiling. You did. I can tell by your faces. You kissed. Both girls dissolved into giggles. Tiana and Jonathan exchanged amused glances over their daughters' heads. This was their life now. Complicated, messy, public. But also beautiful and full of hope. Come on, Tiana said to Grace. Time to get you settled for the night. We have a big week ahead. Because I'm coming home? Because you're coming home. As they walked together through the hospital, two families merging into something new, Tiana felt profound gratitude. For Grace's health, for Jonathan's presence, for Sophie's friendship, for second chances at happiness. Life was short and uncertain. But it was also full of unexpected gifts if you were brave enough to accept them. She'd been brave enough to mail a letter. Now she was being brave enough to open her heart. And that felt exactly right. Monday morning arrived with nervous energy. Grace was going home, but first she needed one final inpatient treatment session. Dr. Rodriguez wanted to administer a booster dose of the medication that had proven most effective, then observe Grace for 24 hours before officially clearing her for outpatient status. Think of it as a graduation ceremony, Dr. Rodriguez explained to Grace. One last treatment here, then you get to go home and start your new normal. Grace wore her favorite red shirt, the bright color standing out against the white hospital linens. She'd been awake since dawn, too excited to sleep. I can't wait to see my room again, Mommy. Do you think Mr. Whiskers missed me? Mr. Whiskers was Grace's stuffed cat, left at home because hospitals weren't ideal for beloved toys. I'm sure he did. Grandma said she's been keeping him company for you. The treatment started at 10 a.m. Beverly handled the insertion with practiced gentleness, and Grace barely flinched. She'd become so brave over the past months, so used to needles and procedures that would make most adults queasy. Jonathan and Sophie arrived at noon bearing lunch from a nearby deli and coloring books. I thought we could keep Grace company during the boring observation hours, Jonathan explained. You didn't have to do that, Tiana said, but she was glad they had. The hospital felt less lonely with them there. The afternoon passed pleasantly. The girls colored together while Jonathan and Tiana talked about logistics for Grace's homecoming. Tiana's mother, Patricia, had cleaned the apartment top to bottom and stocked the fridge with healthy food. The school had sent homework so Grace could stay caught up. Beverly had printed out detailed care instructions that were waiting in a folder. What's the first thing you want to do when you get home? Sophie asked Grace. Take a bubble bath in my own tub. Then sleep in my own bed. Then eat breakfast at my own table. Grace grinned. And hug Mr. Whiskers for like an hour. Can I come visit? Duh. You have to visit. We're best friends. Forever. Forever and ever. Tiana watched the two girls, so different in appearance but so perfectly matched in spirit. Sophie's presence had been a gift during the hardest time. She'd given Grace something to look forward to, a reason to fight beyond just survival. Around 4 p.m. Dr. Rodriguez stopped by to check Grace's vitals. Everything looked perfect. But as she was leaving, she pulled Tiana aside. I need to prepare you for something. The next few months are going to be critical. Grace is doing beautifully, but leukemia can be tricky. We'll monitor her closely with regular blood tests. If we catch any sign of relapse early, we can treat it aggressively. But I need you to be vigilant." Tiana's stomach dropped. "You think it might come back?" "I think we've given her the best possible chance. Her response to treatment has been excellent. But I'd be lying if I said there was zero risk. The first year after treatment is when we watch most carefully. How do I live like that? How do I relax when I'm constantly waiting for bad news?" "You focus on today. Today Grace is healthy. Today her numbers are perfect. Today she gets to go home. That's what you hold on to." Tiana nodded, trying to breathe through the anxiety tightening her chest. She'd been so focused on getting through treatment that she hadn't thought about what came after. The constant vigilance, the shadow of fear that would follow them. Jonathan found her in the hallway 10 minutes later, clearly sensing something was wrong. "Talk to me," he said gently. She told him about Dr. Rodriguez's warning. About the monitoring, the risk of relapse, the year of uncertainty ahead. "I thought once treatment ended we'd be done," Tiana said, her voice breaking. "But we're not done. We're just entering a different phase of fear. Then we'll walk through that phase together." Jonathan took both her hands. "Tiana, listen to me. Grace is strong. The treatment worked. Yes, there's risk, but there's always risk. You can't control the future. You can only live in the present and handle whatever comes. I'm so tired of being scared." "I know. But fear doesn't mean failure. Fear means you love her enough to worry. That's not weakness. That's devotion. How did you do it? After Catherine died, how did you keep going?" "Badly at first. But then I realized that Sophie needed me to choose life, not just existence. So I started saying yes to things. Yes to playdates, yes to birthday parties, yes to new experiences. Yes to living even though it was scary and painful and uncertain. Say yes to life." "Exactly. Grace's letter was you saying yes to hope. Tonight, letting her go home is saying yes to recovery. And whatever happens next, we'll face it by continuing to say yes." Tiana let him pull her into a hug, grateful for his steady presence. He was right. They couldn't control outcomes, only choices. And choosing to hope, choosing to live, choosing to believe in happiness, that was the only way forward. That evening, Grace fell asleep early, exhausted from excitement and medication. Tiana and Jonathan sat in the family lounge, talking quietly while Sophie dozed in a chair nearby. "I've been thinking," Jonathan said, "about the future. About us." "What about us?" "I want to be part of your life, Tiana. Not just while Grace is sick but after. I want to see where this goes. I want Sophie and Grace to grow up together. I want to take you on real dates and meet your mother properly and integrate our families." "That's a lot to want. Is it too much?" Tiana thought about it. A month ago the idea would have seemed impossible. But now, after everything they'd been through together, it felt natural. Inevitable even. "No," she said slowly. "It's not too much. It's exactly what I want too." Yeah. You've become essential, Jonathan. I can't imagine going through any of this without you. And I don't want to imagine my future without you in it." Relief and joy flooded his expression. "I was afraid you'd want to step back once Grace was better. That you'd see my help as a debt to be repaid, not a relationship to be nurtured. I don't owe you anything except honesty and gratitude. And honestly, gratefully, I care about you. I want to see where this leads. Even though our circumstances are so different? Circumstances are just circumstances. What matters is how we treat each other, how we make each other feel. You make me feel seen and valued and worthy. That's what matters." Jonathan leaned over and kissed her, soft and sweet. When they pulled apart, Sophie was awake and watching with a knowing smile. "I told Dad you liked each other," she announced. "You're very observant," Tiana said, laughing. "I'm smart like my mom was. She always said pay attention to how people look at each other. You and Dad look at each other the same way Mom and Dad used to look at each other." Jonathan's expression turned tender. "Is that okay with you, Sophie? Me caring about Tiana?" Sophie thought about it seriously. "Mom would want you to be happy. She told me that before she died. She said Dad would be sad for a while, but she wanted him to find happiness again. I think she'd like Tiana. And I know she'd love Grace." Tears filled Jonathan's eyes. "Thank you, sweetheart. That means everything. Plus, if you and Tiana get together, Grace and I can be real sisters instead of just best friends. That would be cool." "Let's not plan the wedding just yet," Tiana said, but she was smiling. The idea didn't scare her. It felt right, like a natural extension of what was already growing between them. That night, Tiana slept in the hospital chair one last time. Tomorrow she'd sleep in her own bed with Grace safe in the next room. Tomorrow normal life would resume. Or at least a new version of normal, one that included Jonathan and Sophie as essential parts of their family. Grace had written a letter asking for help. She'd received so much more: medical care, friendship, love, hope, family. One desperate plea had transformed their entire world. As Tiana drifted off to sleep, she thought about the future Dr. Rodriguez had warned her about. Yes, there would be monitoring and vigilance and fear. But there would also be joy and healing and love. Grace was coming home. That was victory. Everything else they'd handle together. 6 months later, spring had arrived with warmth and new growth. Grace's hair had grown back in soft curls, and her energy had returned fully. Dr. Rodriguez's regular checkups continued to show perfect numbers. The word remission had been officially used 3 months ago, and it still made Tiana cry happy tears every time she said it. Grace had returned to school full-time, quickly catching up with her classmates and resuming her spot as one of the brightest students in 3rd grade. Her experience had changed her, made her more empathetic and mature, but it hadn't stolen her joy. She was still the same sweet, hopeful child who'd written a letter to a stranger. On this particular Saturday in early May, Tiana stood in her small apartment getting ready for what Jonathan had mysteriously called an important event. He'd been secretive all week, refusing to tell her what he was planning. Even Grace and Sophie were in on it, giggling together whenever Tiana asked questions. Patricia, Tiana's mother, sat on the couch watching her daughter fuss with her dress, a knowing smile on her face. "Stop worrying, baby. You look beautiful. I don't know where we're going or what we're doing. How am I supposed to know if I'm dressed appropriately?" Jonathan said, casual but nice. "That sundress is perfect." Patricia stood and adjusted Tiana's collar. "I'm proud of you, you know. For surviving this. For opening your heart again. For letting good things in. I couldn't have done it without you, Mom. You've been here for every hard moment. That's what mothers do. We show up." Patricia kissed her daughter's forehead. "Now go. Jonathan and those beautiful girls are waiting for you." The car arrived at noon. Robert drove them out of the city, heading toward the countryside. Grace and Sophie sat in the back with Tiana, bouncing with excitement but refusing to reveal the destination. Jonathan sat up front, occasionally turning to smile at Tiana with an expression that made her heart flutter. After 45 minutes, they pulled up to a beautiful park Tiana had never visited before. It was larger and more elaborate than the city parks she knew, with walking paths, playgrounds, picnic areas, and a large pond with ducks. "What are we doing here?" Tiana asked as Jonathan helped her out of the car. "You'll see. Come on." They walked along a path bordered by spring flowers until they reached a clearing where a large ribbon-cutting ceremony was being set up. Mayor Elizabeth Harrington was there, along with several city officials and a growing crowd of people. Tiana recognized Mr. Carter, Beverly, Dr. Rodriguez, and many other familiar faces from the hospital and Grace's school. At the center of the clearing stood a beautiful new building, modern but warm, with large windows and welcoming architecture. A banner across the front read, "The Grace Brooks Children's Wellness Center." Tiana stopped walking, her hand flying to her mouth. "What is this?" Jonathan turned to face her, Grace and Sophie standing beside him. "Grace's letter didn't just save her life. It inspired me to do something bigger. This is a pediatric facility that will provide free medical care, counseling, and support services to children with serious illnesses and their families. Nobody will ever have to face what you faced, choosing between treatment and financial ruin. You built this. I funded it. But Grace inspired it. Her courage, her honesty, her belief that asking for help wasn't weakness. That changed my life. I wanted to honor that." He gestured to the building. Inside, there's a library full of books donated by Sophie's school, an art room for therapeutic activities, family spaces where parents can rest, and state-of-the-art medical facilities. Dr. Rodriguez has agreed to consult, and Beverly will head the nursing program. Tiana couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at the building bearing her daughter's name. Grace tugged on her mother's hand. "Mommy, Mr. Pierce says I get to cut the ribbon. Is that okay?" "Of course it's okay, baby. You deserve this." The ceremony was beautiful and emotional. Mayor Harrington spoke about the importance of accessible healthcare. Dr. Rodriguez explained the medical services that would be offered. Mr. Carter talked about Grace's bravery and the impact her story had on the community. Then Jonathan spoke, his voice clear and strong. 7 months ago, I received a letter from a little girl I'd never met. Grace Brooks asked me for help, not for herself really, but for her mother who she saw suffering. That letter reminded me what wealth is truly for. Not accumulation but impact. Not power but purpose. This center exists because one child was brave enough to ask, and one mother was strong enough to accept help. To Grace, to Tiana, to every family who will walk through these doors, you are not alone. You are not forgotten. And you deserve care, dignity, and hope. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Grace, wearing a bright green dress that matched the spring grass, cut the ribbon with help from Sophie. Cheers erupted. Balloons were released. The building was officially open. Afterward they toured the facilities. Tiana saw the family rooms named after Catherine, Jonathan's late wife. She saw the art therapy space where children could express feelings too complex for words. She saw the library where kids could escape into stories during difficult treatments. She saw the medical rooms equipped with the latest technology, ready to provide excellent care regardless of a family's ability to pay. "This is incredible," she whispered to Jonathan. "You've created something that will help thousands of families." "We created it. You and Grace inspired it. I just wrote the checks." "That's not true. You saw a need and filled it. You took your grief and your loss and your resources and created something beautiful. Catherine would be so proud." "I hope so. I think about her every day, wondering if I'm honoring her memory the right way." "You are," Tiana assured him, squeezing his hand. "This center, the way you've loved Sophie, the way you've shown up for me and Grace, you're honoring her beautifully." After the tour there was a celebration picnic in the park. Margaret, Jonathan's chef, had prepared food for everyone. Children played on the playground. Adults talked and laughed. Grace and Sophie ran around with Buddy, who'd been allowed to come for the special occasion. As the afternoon sun began to lower, Jonathan pulled Tiana aside to a quiet spot near the pond. Sophie and Grace were visible in the distance, feeding ducks with Patricia's supervision. "There's something else I need to tell you," Jonathan said, and his voice had a nervous quality that made Tiana's heart speed up. "Okay. These past 6 months have been the happiest I've been since Catherine died. You and Grace have brought light back into my life. Sophie has flourished having you both as part of her world. Every day I wake up grateful that Grace wrote that letter, that you mailed it, that we found each other. Jonathan, I feel the same way. You know that." "I do. But I need you to know that this isn't just about gratitude or circumstance anymore. This is about love. Real, deep, lasting love. I love you, Tiana. I love your strength, your kindness, your dedication to your daughter. I love how you challenge me and make me laugh. I love how you've welcomed Sophie into Grace's life without hesitation. I love who I am when I'm with you." Tears filled Tiana's eyes. "I love you too. I've been afraid to say it, afraid it was too soon or too complicated. But I do. I love you." Jonathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Tiana's breath caught as he opened it, revealing a beautiful ring with a center diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the sunlight. "I know we've only known each other 6 months. I know it's fast. But life is short, Tiana. We've both learned that the hard way. When you find something real, you don't waste time questioning it. You hold on to it." He took her hand. "Tiana Brooks, will you marry me? Will you let me be your partner, your support, your love for the rest of our lives? Will you let our families become one family officially?" Tiana looked at this man who'd saved her daughter's life, who'd shown up every day, who'd sat with her through fear and celebrated every victory. She thought about the future stretching ahead, full of possibility and love. "Yes," she said, her voice strong and sure. "Yes, I'll marry you. I want nothing more than to build a life with you." Jonathan slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her, deep and full of promise. In the distance, Grace and Sophie started screaming with excitement, clearly having been watching the whole time. The girls came running, Buddy bounding beside them. They crashed into Jonathan and Tiana, creating a group hug full of laughter and happy tears. "Does this mean Grace is my real sister now?" Sophie asked. "It means we're going to be a family," Jonathan confirmed. "All 4 of us." "And Buddy," Grace added. "And Buddy," Jonathan agreed, laughing. Patricia approached with tears streaming down her face. "Congratulations, baby. You deserve all this happiness." The celebration continued into the evening. Friends and family surrounded them with love and support. Dr. Rodriguez hugged Tiana tightly and whispered, "I told you miracles happen." Beverly dabbed her eyes and declared she'd known from day one that Jonathan and Tiana were meant to be together. Mr. Carter gave a toast about love emerging from hardship. As the sun set and the party began to wind down, the 4 of them sat together on a blanket watching the sky turn orange and pink. Grace leaned against Tiana on one side, Sophie against Jonathan on the other, their hands intertwined in the middle. "What should we do first as a family?" Jonathan asked. "Go on vacation," Sophie suggested. Somewhere with a beach. Have a big wedding with lots of cake, Grace said. Move into a house big enough for all of us, Tiana added. All of the above, Jonathan decided. We'll do it all. Together. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching fireflies begin to appear in the twilight. Then Grace said quietly, Mommy, do you remember when I wrote that letter? Of course, baby. I'll never forget it. I was so scared. I thought we were going to lose everything. But I remembered what Mr. Carter taught us in school. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help. You were very brave. But the best part wasn't getting the help. The best part was finding Sophie and Mr. Pierce. I mean Jonathan. She smiled at her soon-to-be stepfather. The best part was getting a family. Sophie nodded enthusiastically. I prayed for a friend who would understand about my mom dying. Then Grace came and she understood everything. God answered my prayer. Maybe we all answered each other's prayers, Jonathan said softly. Grace prayed for help. Sophie prayed for a friend. I prayed for purpose. And Tiana prayed for hope. We found all of that in each other. Tiana felt overwhelming gratitude wash over her. 7 months ago, she'd been sitting in a hospital room staring at an impossible medical bill, feeling hopeless and alone. Now she was engaged to a wonderful man, her daughter was healthy and happy, and they were building a beautiful blended family full of love and support. I have a question, Grace said suddenly. What's that, sweetheart? Tiana asked. When you and Jonathan get married, can Sophie and I both be flower girls? Definitely, Jonathan said. You'll both be the most important people there besides your mom and me. And Buddy can be the ring bearer, Sophie added. We'll consider it, Tiana said laughing. As darkness fell completely and stars began to appear, they packed up and headed home. Jonathan drove them to his house, where they'd been spending most weekends. It was starting to feel like home to Tiana and Grace, a place where they belonged. Inside, the girls ran upstairs to Sophie's room to plan wedding details, their excited voices carrying down the stairs. Jonathan and Tiana sat in the living room, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. Are you happy? He asked quietly. Happier than I ever thought possible. You. More than I can express. When Catherine died, I thought that part of my life was over. I thought I'd had my chance at love and lost it. I never imagined I'd feel this way again. Do you think she'd approve? Of us? I think she'd be thrilled. Catherine always said life was for living, not just surviving. She'd want me to find happiness again. And she'd love you, Tiana. She'd love how you care for Grace, how you've welcomed Sophie, how you make me smile. I wish I could have met her. In a way you have. You see her in Sophie every day. Her kindness, her curiosity, her generous heart, that's all Catherine. Tiana turned to look at him. Thank you for letting me into your life. For trusting me with your heart. For being patient while I learned to trust again. Thank you for saying yes. To dinner, to dating, to marriage, to all of it. You've given me a future I can look forward to. They kissed, slow and sweet, a promise of all the kisses to come. Upstairs, they could hear the girls giggling, probably trying on dress-up clothes and pretending to be brides. We should probably set a date, Tiana said. The girls will want to know. How about this summer? June or July? Give us time to plan something beautiful but not make us wait too long. July. Grace's birthday is in 3 weeks in late May. Let's celebrate that first, then start planning the wedding. July it is. Small ceremony or big? Medium. Close friends and family. I want it to feel intimate, not overwhelming. Perfect. We'll make it perfect. Later that night, after they'd put the girls to bed in Sophie's room where they'd insisted on having a sleepover, Tiana and Jonathan sat on the back porch looking at the stars. The Grace Brooks Children's Wellness Center would officially open for patients on Monday. The wedding planning would begin in earnest next week. Life was moving forward, full of hope and promise. Can I tell you something? Tiana said softly. Always. I used to be angry at God for letting Grace get sick. I questioned why bad things happened to good people, why my daughter had to suffer. But now I think maybe it was all part of a bigger plan. Not that God wanted Grace to be sick, but that he knew how to bring good out of something terrible. Grace's illness brought us together. It inspired the wellness center that will help thousands of families. It taught us all about strength and hope and love. Suffering with purpose, Jonathan said thoughtfully. I've thought about that too. Catherine's death nearly destroyed me. But it also made me appreciate every moment with Sophie. It made me value real connection over superficial success. And it prepared me to appreciate you when you came into my life. I wouldn't have been ready for you before. The grief made me softer, more empathetic, more open. So maybe the hard things shape us for the good things to come. Maybe they do. They sat in peaceful silence, hands intertwined, hearts full. Inside, their daughters slept safely under one roof. Tomorrow they'd make pancakes together as a family. Next week, Grace would celebrate her 8th birthday with a party where Sophie would be by her side. In 2 months, they'd stand before friends and family and promise forever to each other. It was a different life than either of them had imagined. But it was beautiful and real and full of love. Grace's letter had asked for help. She'd received healing, friendship, family, and a future bright with possibility. One child's courage had created ripples that extended far beyond her own life. The Grace Brooks Children's Wellness Center would serve families for generations. Children would receive care regardless of their ability to pay. Parents would find support and hope during the hardest times. And it all started with a 7-year-old girl who believed that asking for help wasn't weakness, but bravery. "I love you," Tiana whispered into the night. "I love you too," Jonathan replied. "Thank you for mailing that letter. Thank you for reading it. Thank you for saying yes to everything that came after. How could I say no? You showed me that kindness still exists, that hope is real, that love can grow even in the hardest circumstances. You showed me that second chances are possible, that life doesn't end after loss, that opening your heart again is worth the risk." They stayed outside until the night grew cool, then went inside to their family. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new challenges, new joys. But they'd face it all together, for people brought together by hardship and bound by love. Grace had written a letter asking for help to save her life. She'd received so much more. She'd found a family, inspired a community, and proved that one person's courage really can change the world. That was the real miracle. Not just survival but transformation. Not just healing but hope. Not just one life saved but countless lives touched. And it all started with a brave little girl, a desperate mother, a generous billionaire, and a letter that changed everything.